Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776 and I'm playing Fallout 4 with the GTX 745. Now, the goal is to try to find out what's playable, all right? And it's been difficult. I can normally find out what's playable on the GTX 745 pretty quickly. It normally does not take me a long time to do it, but this is a big game. It's a Bethesda game. It's an open world game. There's been a lot to go through. Now, I thought I had it figured out, if I'm honest with you. I thought I had it pretty well figured out. But see how we're at 23 frames per second right now as I stand here? When you're outside, it's a different frame rate. Let me see if I can still go back outside. That's 30. So let's go outside. See, it's 60 here in this loading screen. You might expect that, but then again, you never know. Sometimes loading screens themselves can't even get to 60 frames per second. It just depends on a lot of things. So, might take a while to load actually, but I'm trying to show you the contrast. See, we were just at 22 frames per second, and that is the lowest I've seen the game stay at since I've been playing it in 1080p on the low preset. All right, so look, now we're well above 30. We're at 37. 44, 40. See, this is where it normally is, in the 30s and 40s, sometimes into the 20s. So this is how the game has been playing for me the entire time, 30s and 40s. So I thought I had some wiggle room, right? I even made a video showing the game being played on the medium preset. And then I came in here and I was getting 16 frames per second with that medium preset. I show that in a video. I can link to it if you want. It's the video uploaded immediately before this video. So we're back in this tunnel, 22 frames per second. So this changes everything because I don't have as much wiggle room as I thought. Can I get through here? I mean, 22 is pretty damning, in my opinion. Especially if you want to talk about how playable a game is, you would want 22 to be on the low side. You certainly would not want to have to expect to play at that. Now we're at 30, now we're at 25, now we're at 30. Now we're at 22. For some reason in this area, whoa, there's a bunch of dudes right there. For some reason in this area, let's do maybe a grenade. The frame rate is sporadic in the sense of, come on. Oh, that did not work out. Holy crap. Now I started a fire. All right. So 22, but this is pretty much how it's been through all of my playthroughs. It's been pretty, see now it's at 20. And, oh my lord, I might die anyway. Look at that. All right. So let's see if we can get through here. By the way, if your dog gets injured, you have to give him a stim pack. But if you wait long enough, that usually gets dealt with. It sorts itself out. All right, let's go over to the rifle. Wait a minute, it's over here. This is a pretty versatile weapon, the short pipe rifle. I seem to have a decent amount of its ammo. It can actually hip fire fairly well if you have it aimed at center mass and you time it. You can actually hip fire the thing. Now, it is hard to aim when you're only getting 20 frames per second. It is difficult to aim right now. All right, I got to take this turret out. Now, this whole section is about 22 frames per second. Remember, this is 1080p on the low preset. I will tell you it is better on 720p and 900p. In particular, 720p becomes much more useful. And as a matter of fact, at 720p, you can actually get 60 frames per second on the low preset a lot of the times while you're outside. So when I was outside getting in the 30s and 40s just now, at 720p, that would have been 60 frames per second. The problem is, and this is a personal opinion, but in my opinion, the game is really ugly in 720p. And 900p doesn't sound like a big difference. In some games like Metal Gear Solid 5, whoa. I missed every one of those shots. Metal Gear Solid 5 in 900p honestly does not look a whole lot worse than 1080p on PC with the GTX 745. And it's pretty playable. What is all that? Look at that. Oh, see that? Look at that. That's trippy. The texture's not loading in properly. See, that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah. All right then. So, Metal Gear Solid 5 is okay at 900p. I don't mind it. And then there's other games that are okay at 720p. I don't mind them. But this game in particular, I do mind in anything under 1080. And that is a personal preference. That is my opinion. Your opinion may vary. But the game will be more playable. I say playable. The frame rate will be higher. What is that spotlight for? You know what? I don't know if I even want to be in here. I really don't. Or maybe I do. Well, let's go to the local map, shall we? Local map, please. All right. So, one thing that I don't like about local maps is they don't show you the whole area. It's like a very small area they show you, even if you've been everywhere. Oh, look, I need to be here. Kill the raiders in the Corvega assembly plant. Hopefully y'all don't find that to be a spoiler. That at some point you have to kill raiders in some building. If you do find that to be a spoiler, I actually do apologize. Sorry, I have a cough drop. All right, this is a little heavy. I want out of here. I want out of here, and I want my mom. Oh, can I go outside? Look at me. I can go outside. And I'm upstairs, too, so I wonder what that's going to look like. Wait a minute. What just happened? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. All right, so what's up with this chain? Activate chain? All right, so I assume that this door can only be opened from inside. And had I come from outside, I would not have been able to open it. Come on, doggy, let me out. See, now we're back into the 30s. We're on the low preset 1080p. If I was going to play the game so far, this is how I would play it. Because 1080p low preset to me is the best I've seen it. Oh, wow, dude came out of that truck. Is the best I've seen it on the 745 so far. Oh, this is actually exactly where I'm supposed to be to beat this thing. All right. So that's where we're at. The game is playable. All right. You put it at 720p if you absolutely need to get your frame rate up. Keep in mind, I have an i7 processor. All right. That's pretty important to note. Here, let me load something non-violent that we can walk around. All right. Let me load something else. Huh. I had a save file and now it's gone. All right. So this is your little hometown. Like you start the game right here. So it's not, hopefully again, not a spoiler. So the game is playable. If you have to go down to 720p, you can. And this is what I was saying. I have an i7. I have a 4790 i7 processor. Now, the reason why that is important is some people are saying that the game uses a lot of CPU. And that even a Skylake i5 can kind of be a problem for more powerful graphics cards, like a GTX 970. So maybe an i5 would not be a problem for the GTX 745. I don't know. All right. That's going to be like, I just haven't had a chance to experiment with that. So I don't know. Just so you guys do know though about this channel, my ultimate goal is to have i3 computers, i5, i7. I do want to be able to know all this firsthand for you guys. I want to be able to see it for myself, but it's a work in progress. When I started this channel, I had really like 2 graphics cards, and right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including a 980 Ti, which I've not even gotten to use in this game yet. But here's how it looks in 1080p. It looks good enough, right? I'm usually kind of hard on the 745. I call it out for what it is. But when the 745 does a good job, I call that out too. Now, is this a good job? No, but it is an adequate job. All right. What you see right here, the low preset, the low 30s for the frame rate, this is adequate. If you have a GTX 745 and you are not going to upgrade your computer anytime soon and you want to play Fallout 4 right now, this is adequate. I've played the game like this for about 3 hours now. Exactly like this. 1080p, GTX 745, low preset, and it's been okay. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, and honestly, it might look better on a PlayStation 4. I don't know, I haven't played it on the PlayStation 4, but it is possible that it looks better on the PlayStation 4 than it does here. That's something to, bear in mind. So it's nothing to write home about, but at least it's feasible. But you saw we were at 20 frames per second in that section, and hopefully that's as low as the frame rate's going to get. And if it gets lower, then yes, you can play it at 720. 900p does not seem to give you that much better of a frame rate, but 720 does. 900p still gives you a better frame rate, but 720 is appreciable. Again, great. What's it called? Metal Gear Solid 5. I wanted to say Grand Theft Auto 5 out of habit. Metal Gear Solid 5 in 900p plays 60 frames per second. Most of the graphic settings are turned up, and it keeps 60 frames per second. It looks good. It feels good, and it looks good. Whereas in this game, going to 900p does not magically give you a huge frame rate boost. And in my opinion, it actually manages to look worse than this. So it varies from game to game. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys. I don't know how much more of the game I'm going to play on the 745, to be honest with you. I've already played at least 3 hours. Right around 3 hours. I want to say at least right around, like just a little over 3 hours with the 745. I don't know how much longer I'm going to play with it. I feel pretty good with what I've said so far. 720 if you absolutely want a higher frame rate. 900p if you want to. I don't think it's going to be that big of a help. And then 1080p is how I would play it. Now, I always say I want a higher frame rate, but I think the game just looks so much better. Let me see if I can find the save file that convinced me of this. It's this one, all right? So load this. So I'm gonna take you to a section where I played in 900p and 720p, and the game was just ugly to me. I mean, ugly. It wasn't even adequate anymore. It was flat out ugly. I almost feel like I've not played this on PS4, but I almost feel like it might be a better game to play on the PS4 because I haven't found what I would call the sweet spot. It's kind of like Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4, you're almost better off playing on console than you are with the 745. Because the 745 in 1080p, GTX 745 playing Far Cry 4 in 1080p struggles. All right, you have to play it on the lowest of settings. It's okay. Some people are fine with it. I'm not really that fine with it. So, sorry, it takes forever to sprint because they keep taking away your AP in that lower right-hand corner. So, Far Cry 4, I kind of feel like you're better off playing on console. This game, I feel like you might be. I've not played it on console, so I don't know from experience. But I would almost assume, because if the way it is right now, if it just stayed like this, even when I was in that building, I'd be fine. I wouldn't love it, but I'd say go ahead, play it on the GTX 745. But watching it go down to that 20 frames per second and stay there, it stayed at 20, 22 frames per second. That's concerning because how many of those areas are there and then how long are they? Because to me, it becomes tedious to get into the way combat works in this game. I find it to be very tedious at 20 frames per second. Now, on the other hand, I find the game to be very ugly at anything lower than 1080p. And this already is not beautiful. You know, this is not the definition of beauty, what we're looking at right now. So there is a building. Which building it is, I forget. I'm going to try to find it really quickly. But there is a building in this town that I went into, and it's filled with all kinds of bricks and stuff. And it was just unappealing to look at in 720p and 900p. It was very unappealing. And I know that's kind of petty, but it is my opinion. Whether that opinion is petty or not, it's this building right here. You know what? I might have had the game saved in this. I might have had a workhouse save. No, I don't. I think that was gone. Let's see. That's workhouse. Yeah, I didn't have another one. It was overwritten. All right. So even in here, if you look at these walls right here, they're already almost gross looking. Hold on, let me look. Yeah. This wall right here is almost gross looking in 1080p. And all these bricks and this rubble and stuff at the lowest setting, 1080p, 30 frames per second, kind of gross. At 720p, the game looked every bit as old as Fallout 3. I mean, it looked like an 8-year-old, 10-year-old game. It looked rough at 720p. And then 900p looks worse than this. And the performance gain, I didn't think was... Look at this, 22 frames per second while we're in here. So, the game is playable though, right? So the question is the game playable? The answer is yes. The game is playable on the GTX 745. Unfortunately, as of right now, I've not come across that magical combination of resolution and settings that makes it great. But it is adequate. In a word, it is adequate. See, Tomb Raider 2013 is actually good looking on this graphics card. Grand Theft Auto 5 is borderline good looking on this graphics card. Some games are. Some, pretty big heavy hitters, some AAA games that everyone's heard of are okay on this graphics card. But this is adequate. It's serviceable. It's, if you don't plan to upgrade from your 745 in the near future, then at least you have some kind of option that lets you play the game. And again, you can lower the resolution. 720p is going to get rid of these frame rate issues. But like I said, the game looks like a 10-year-old game almost in 720p in my opinion. So we're at 30 frames per second inside this building. Now that other building was really small. It was not a demanding building at all. So I'm I'm very curious as to why the frame rate was so low in that building. Come on, dog. Out of my way, dog. Come on. Yeah, I'm pretty curious as to why this is in the 30s. And this still isn't beautiful. Now it's 25. This is not beautiful, but it's adequate. And to be honest with you, I've still gotten some enjoyment out of the game at 1080p lowest settings. As long as it stays above the 30s, I've gotten enjoyment out of it. All right. Hopefully you don't think this is spoilery. I mean, this is obviously areas that you would go through in the game, but there's no story going on or, anything like that. They got very creative in this game. They use the environment pretty well. See, you can actually get 60 frames per second looking at the clouds for what that's worth. Whee! Alright. Got a big old aircraft up here, the vertibird or whatever it's called. Actually, where else can I go from up here? You would assume the vertibird would let me bridge to another building. Possibly. Not all of my ideas are good ones. All right. Could I otherwise get into this building? What would make this interesting is, yeah, there's no door there. I was going to say, if this was the only way into the building, that would be interesting. If this is the only way to get to something, that would be interesting. Oh, what do we have here? No, it looks like there's a ladder up here. There's a staircase, yeah. Oh, well, that's disappointing. See, now we're at 60 frames per second in here. The frame rate is kind of all over the place. But yeah, it's playable. So we're going to say it's playable to GTX 745. And hopefully later in the game, something doesn't come up that proves me absolutely wrong. Something super game breaking. So I'm going to say it's playable. Because even here, the worst it's gone down to in 1080p is 20 frames per second. So there you go, guys. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. Sorry for the rambling. It's just, I don't like it when I can't give you guys really great news. Like The Witcher 3, you can't even play that at 1080p. It's like 16 frames per second. And it's just disgusting. Like on the lowest of settings, it's pretty bad. And I don't like making these videos where I don't have great news for you, but this is mixed news. Some of it's I guess the fact that you can play the game makes it so it's not necessarily bad news, if that makes sense. But I would have loved, here's what I wished I could have done. I would have loved to say, hey guys, put it down to 900p, turn the shadows up, turn anti-aliasing up, and then the game is great. I wish I could have done that, but I can't. It's in one of those weird positions where when you lower and I'm all about frame rate, so I've always said, yeah, lower the resolution. It's fine in a lot of games. In this game, I think the game gets uglier when you lower the frame rate. However, with that said, still playable. Pick your poison. Let me know in the comments what you guys end up doing if you've played the game with the GTX 745. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys. I have a ton, probably 40 different AAA games with the GTX 745 that I've done on this channel. And in a lot of those games, I show you how you can get high settings, how you can get 60 frames per second and make the games look good. And that's when I'm having fun doing this, is when I can show you like, hey, look at this. The 745 can do high textures and do 60 frames per second. I love giving you that kind of news. So anyway, let me know in the comments what ended up working for you guys with this game, because it is playable. And again, hopefully this video has helped you out. This has been AI Gaming 1776, and have yourselves an excellent day, and please believe me, I do appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.